All right, hello. My name is Nathan Payne. I'm a singer and songwriter, currently living day to day in the Baja in Mexico. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to listen to the material and seriously consider subscribing to the YouTube, to the Patreon, and if you're on Spotify or any of those platforms, to look me up on there. I'm going to try to see how this feels, see if I kind of break out of the and start getting candid about it. But we're going to start with All the Diamonds You Can Eat. It's an early record of mine. Um, it's an LA record entirely about LA. It's from LA. It describes my experience in LA without without making any effort to do so. Um, it's it exposes or expresses or whatever you want to say, but it's just it was my experience there, and it's very lo-fi, like it says in the synopsis. Recorded almost entirely on a broken 4 track on cassette tapes purchased exclusively at the dollar store. All the Diamonds You Can Eat is a bumpy ride through the lo-fi part of town, which is indeed what it is. From the soaring, cracked out, A Beautiful Place, through the original recording of California Hills to the morbidly sentimental Peace and Contentment Blues, All the Diamonds You Can Eat is a dirty and frightening thing. Proceed with freaking caution. And you should definitely proceed with some freaking caution while listening to that record. I think the cover art says it all. A Polaroid, actually, that I took the color out of. Obviously, a little dark. some something going on there. There's some darkness there. Um, there's so many stories behind the songs. It's not even funny. I mean, I can't get into it. It would take an hour to cut it. But A Beautiful Place. There's always. I was talking to a buddy last night or a couple nights ago about some of these songs, and he was asking me about some of the songs, and we're on drugs because the flies go buzz, 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 and love covers over everything. And it's like there's the junky heart or the crazy cracked out LA vibe, the street vibe, not the glitzy stuff, but the underbelly stuff, the uh, is I've always had a sense of this isn't my home, the dark side. So when it says "and happiness is mine," we're on drugs because the flies go buzz, 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 and love covers over everything. That's a biblical reference. That love covers a multitude of sins. Somewhere in the Bible says that, and I always knew that somehow I wasn't going to be stuck in here, even though happiness is mine is an obvious embracing of misery and hedonism and drugs and other things to kill the pain. And it's kind of a rejection of life, of love, of God, of faith, of hope. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to have any of that stuff. That stuff is too hard. I'm at least going to be happy, which is to say, hi, happiness is mine. You can have all the rest of it. At least I'm numb and don't care. I'm free for an hour by being loaded. But love covers over a multitude of sins. We will not be here forever. Or when I wrote A Beautiful Place, I remember I wrote it, I had an apartment on Maltman in Silver Lake, and I wrote it in September of '03. I remember it. And so that's coming up on 23 years ago, the better part of a quarter of a century by now. And the bridge says, "I had it all, and it all had me, but my prison days are over. It's finally free." Um, um, that was always to me gospel. I don't mean like gospel like I just wrote something of extraordinary spiritual importance. I mean, to me, that's what gospel. That's like me being a gospel singer. To me, that was like a gospel, something you would say in a gospel song. I had it all, and it all had me, but my prison days are over. I'm finally free. I just passed 12 years of sobriety. I haven't even smoked weed, and coming up on 6, 7 or some 6. Dark Side of the Dog, obviously L.A. Idaho is too deep to get into here. Sleeping Sea, I've written about this stuff before. California Hills, of course. The guy who did the Rabbit video, and he was kind of concerned, because it's 5.5 minutes long, and I actually curtailed the song live because you don't get tired of playing it. It's a fun song to play, but it doesn't, like, there's literally nothing true about the song anymore for me. It's like they're all true. I never lie. I've never lied in any of my songs. I had a friend say to me, he wrote a lot of stuff about. He just kind of wrote fake stuff. He made up stories. He was a brilliant guy, talented dude, especially with visual arts. But he was like, man, how do you write such? I just said, just tell the truth. And I was that was 20 plus years ago, and we were a little. I was a little. It was a little more frayed, and we kind of rubbed each other the wrong way. We were buddies, but not super close friends. And I think he kind of was. And I'm just like, well, then write a song about what you think of me. Just it doesn't have to be nice. Just tell the truth. All the best songs are all the songs with the widest appeal, the songs that appeal to the highest, the broadest audience. In my opinion, say I wouldn't write it in stone. I would write it on a birthday cake. You could chisel it in frosting for sure. They're all written for an audience of one. If you want to resonate with the most people, which is never should be the goal, you're just trying to get it out of your face, out of your heart, off your chest. This is what I think. This is what I need to say between me and it and the wall or the sky or the trees or the sun or the whatever it is. This is what I have to say, and I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks about it, good or bad. I don't need the approval, and the disdain doesn't bother me when it comes to the work. It doesn't bother me in general anyway. Anything that bothers me is generally just because I'm aggravated because I'm always broke. But it's like Tom Waits said. There's nothing wrong with her. $100 won't fix. It's kind of true for me in a lot of ways. So California Hills. I wrote so many of these songs at the St. Moritz Hotel. I wrote Happiness Is Mine at the Moritz. I probably wrote Dark Side at the Moritz. I don't remember that for sure. Probably Well Adjusted. That's probably true. California Hills for sure. A Beautiful Place I wrote at Maltman. At the apartment on Maltman. California Hills was written 2 or 3 days after I left the apartment in Silver Lake, where I was living with my junkie girlfriend. We were both, I don't know, practicing fools, man. It was fun. We had I loved her. It was untenable, man. It's junky stuff, You can't, doesn't go anywhere. It's basically 3 ways out of that life. You quit, you go to jail or prison, or you die. And I was more of a chipper than a hardcore junkie. Now there's no play. You play with that fire, you're gonna get burned. It is not. There's no way to skip off that lake of fire and not get burned. But a chipper is like the equivalent of a binge drinker. So it's like, I wasn't. You have your morning shot and your evening shot, and it is the only thing you care about. Like, everything else serves that. But it was easy. $20 a day or something. I mean, we would go do audience work and covered that. There's so many stories. I can't even. I could be on the phone here for an hour, and it would barely scratch the surface. So if you are interested in all the diamonds you can eat, it's available for $7.77 on Bandcamp. There are some really brilliant and very appreciated little reviews on there, a couple of them. The whole discography is available for $56.75. Go to nathanpayne.bandcamp.com and check out All the Diamonds You Can Eat. And it was literally recorded on a broken 4-track with cassette tapes that I purchased at the dollar store, with the exception of Peace and Contentment Blues. There's a couple of overdubs on a couple. Sleeping Sea, I think, I recorded those. I had some friends at the church in Hollywood, and they're like, it was Easter weekend in '04, and they're like, oh, you can't spend Easter weekend in the car, so they let me They invited me to hang out with them at their apartment, but they had Pro Tools in their guest room, and I couldn't resist, and I kind of pissed them off. I kind of burned the friendship, not intentionally, but I had to record. I had to do that. There was no way I was going to be spending the weekend in a room with the Pro Tools and a nice condenser mic and not do something. And not having any experience back in the day, that was a long time ago. I didn't really get good at recording until the early 2010s, and that's arguably that was like a transitional period. I didn't really get good at it. I mean, my last album is like 9 years ago, so it's been a while. But those are digital. But I did record everything on. I did buy the cassette tapes at the dollar store. I wanted the lowest quality medium I could possibly find. And my buddy's in Hollywood, his 4-track was broken. And when I recorded Idaho, All the Diamonds You Can Eat, I think you had to literally. It was so jacked up. You had to actually. I think I had to hold the record button down with my shoe. I think. I remember that I did the tambourine track later for some reason. It's just you kind of take what you can get, and that's been almost all the early stuff is like that. All of the early stuff is like that. You take what you can get. You don't get 2 takes. You better know what you're doing, and if you don't, it'll show. And because you don't know when you're going to get access to a machine again. It might never happen. I've always been in a rush because I've never assumed that I was going to live beyond the end of the day. So I'm like, well, if I die tonight, I want at least to get The Beautiful Place in California Hills recorded. I did those 2 at the same day, I think. Maybe Happiness Is Mine, all in one day. There's basically 4 tracks at all one take, a bass guitar, a vocal, a guitar, and a percussion track. And A Beautiful Place, while I was recording it, I had pots and pans. My buddy was there, but he didn't really have anything to do with it. A little bit. I don't remember. He might have had something to do with the recording of the pots and pans. And we were just kind of banging on the pots and pans, and one of the pots bounced up and landed on the mic stand and was kind of leaning on the mic stand. And so at some point in the song, especially before the second verse, and I really liked that song because musically speaking, the first verse is musically nothing like the second verse. So it's like verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, but the verses are not musically the same. And in the second verse, on the one, there's a pot that's kind of like reverberating with the mic stand, and it makes this kind of hollow, you listen to the track, you'll hear it. And it's this hollow reverberating thing. And I'm like I couldn't have planned that. Like I didn't know what I was doing anyway. And that's the kind of stuff that was fun about the early stuff. It's fun anyway. You just kind of get more refined and you get better at, you learn how to, it took me 10 albums to even learn how to use compression. I had to sacrifice Vampire Cats and the Boo-Foo Harem record, which I'm not going to give you the real title because the world has lost its sense of humor. Though I had to unwittingly sacrifice those albums on the altar of learning how to record, because they're terrible production quality for the most part, especially Vampire Cats, which is unfortunate because I really like that album, but it's even worse than the albums. Production quality is even worse than the albums from the old days that were actually made of actual demos. It's even worse than that because it makes an effort to be a production, whereas the demos are like, somebody's girlfriend is standing in the bar with a 4-track and a microphone from the dollar store, and whatever, you're lucky to get one song that isn't absolutely terrible. So I didn't know what I was doing for Diamonds at all. It's all just like, one take. Your buddy's like, it's a weeks will pass in between sessions, and you call your buddy and he's got your files on his computer, and you're living in your car in LA and you're doing the whole St. Moritz thing and living in your car and whatever, bouncing from here to there and doing what you can, playing shows when you can, surviving. And he would say he worked at Amoeba. He lived in more or less where Sunset hits the 101, kind of that area, more or less, within a few blocks of there. I think he lived slightly west of that, a block or two, I don't remember. St. Andrews and whatever, a block north of Sunset. I forget the name of that street, but not Fountain. I don't remember. Maybe Fountain. And I would go to his place, do a couple of tracks, 2 or 3 tracks, whatever we could get done. Just whatever I could get done. I've been waiting for it for weeks. I've been prepping my mind for it. Track it, get stoned, take him to work, and then go back off into the streets. And and then a month later, you get to go back and fix it, or you don't fix anything. That's why Dark Side of the Dog at the beginning says, "I want to get stoned," because I was like, it was half the fun of going over to my buddy's apartment, aside from getting these songs off my chest, was getting stoned. I got to smoked a bowl with the guy before we took him to work, and then. So that's a little bit of the backstory of All the Diamonds You Can Eat. Thanks for watching. Please consider purchasing. I will talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.